Hello and welcome to another edition of the Ask Dr. Pickel show, where we help people find answers to their chronic health issues, chronic health problems. Interesting story. I have had a patient recently that came in, and she is suffering with can't think straight. Just feels like her head's in a cloud, always, constantly. First thing in the morning, she wakes up, feels like there's a cloud. As the day goes by, it's affecting her work. It's hard to think and focus, and she works with a lot of numbers, which is not good. And also not only that, but her processing. She says, I used to be able to calculate all this stuff in my head really easily. But she goes, now I'm having to pull out the calculator, everything, and just really watch things. And she notices she's making a lot of mistakes, and she's having to recheck her work. So now what used to not take her very long to get done now is taking her quite a long time because she has to re-review her work. And she said, this is really just getting worse. And it's just focus, concentration, memory. She even notices that when she's speaking with her husband, she feels like every little thing that he says irritates her or makes her want to cry, or, just a lot of emotional symptoms that are easily triggered. And she said, I didn't used to be this way. And when she went into her primary care physician, he just basically said, he listened to her and he said, you're getting older. This is probably just a hormonal change. It'll pass. We can use this antidepressant if you like, because that's probably what it is. And so then she was like, well, I don't really want to take a medication unless I absolutely have to. And so again, she was very frustrated and just thought that, hey, maybe this is just age, getting ready to go through menopause possibly soon. But, the thing is she's 46. So, is this really menopause? Is this really what's occurring? And again, no tests were run. So we really don't know. It was just kind of an opinion based on symptoms. So she was very frustrated and looking for answers. So that brings up the point that we are going to talk about today: triggers of brain inflammation. And brain inflammation, pretty important stuff. And there's so many patients, so many people that have brain inflammation that just live that way. They think it's normal. And some people have had it the majority of their life. Some people have just more recently had it. It can vary in the time it comes on. But if you've had it the majority of your life, you don't know any difference until maybe you have some better days. Every once in a while, hopefully everybody has some better days where they feel like, hey, I'm thinking clearer today. But if you do have those better days, then that means you're also having worse days. So that means there is a problem. And again, that's with a lot of health conditions. A lot of people don't know that they really feel bad or have health issues until they have good days, or until they start to feel better. And they're like, gosh, I used to live this way and I thought it was normal. So we see that happen all the time, where people start to feel better, get better, and they never realized how bad they were feeling until they start to get better. So, as far as the brain, though, it's so important because our brain controls everything. And brain inflammation is destruction of cells, of all kinds of things in our body. But if inflammation is in the brain, and we start a destructive process in our brain, or we accelerate brain degeneration, that leads to all kinds of problems, and they can slowly build up and sneak up on us. And then at a certain point in our life, it's like, whoa, I've got a problem. And the incidence of Alzheimer's, dementia, all these symptoms in the world, in the United States, is rising. And these are secondary to brain inflammatory processes. So the thing is rather than treating it when it gets the worst, let's halt it or stop it now so it doesn't end up as a consequence. And so that's why we've got to identify triggers. What are things that can trigger brain inflammation? So you can try to avoid these, get rid of them, or do something about it. So let's dive right in with that. Okay, so let's go in the middle here. Actually, let's put brain inflammation. All right. So what can be triggers? Let's start with the first one. And this is a very, very common one. Lack of sleep. Yes. If you're not sleeping, your brain is going to have problems. I mean, and people know that I didn't get a good night's sleep last night. It's harder to function today, harder to work today. Yeah, your brain needs a certain amount of sleep. This is when you're sleeping, that's when your body does a lot of its repair, detoxification. That's when it needs that time. It needs those hours of sleep, and not only sleep, but a good deep sleep in order to really repair and function. And if you're not getting that, yeah, you're subject to brain inflammation. All right, what's another one? We'll put this one as dietary proteins. And the reason why I put it as dietary proteins, these are proteins, and we think of them as protein, we think of like meat or something like that. Well, it is, but actually everything has a protein molecule in, or a majority of foods that we eat. So these would be gluten, dairy, soy. Those are probably the three most common. And yes, gluten, the protein is called gliadin. Dairy, this protein is called casein. Soy, it's soy. All right, these are all food proteins. Now, there are other food proteins that people react to, but these are probably the most common. And the thing is if you eat these things, your immune system can react with them. This can cause inflammation, not only in your gut, but in your brain too, which this is very common, very well noted in the literature and the research. And again, people react differently, and I'm not just talking to you if you don't have any symptoms or problems and you can say, hey, I eat gluten, I never had a problem. Well, great, good for you. But majority of people watching this, majority of people who have brain inflammation or brain inflammation symptoms, yeah, they eat the wrong food. It increases it. Or your brain fog is there all the time, so you may not even notice a difference because you just feel lousy all the time already. So dietary proteins, definitely a big factor there. What's another one? Let's write that just a little better here. Infection. All right. So if you have an infection, this doesn't have to be an infection in your brain. This could be an infection anywhere in your body. And under infections, yeah, there's typical things. I mean, some people, if they get the flu virus, they get a severe headache. That happens. It doesn't just have to be fever and runny nose and sore throat. Yeah, some people get bad headaches when they get viruses. But there's other more known infectious agents that affect the central nervous system, especially the brain. These would be like Epstein-Barr virus, which is also called mono or mononucleosis. And a lot of people think, oh, I maybe had that as a teen. That's not a big deal anymore. Well, absolutely it can be. In fact, in the research, the majority of people who have autoimmune conditions have Epstein-Barr in their system, living and thriving. These viruses like Epstein-Barr, cytomegalovirus, they live in the herpes family, herpes simplex. These viruses, they live in your nervous system, and they produce kind of just this low-grade inflammation that just goes on and on. Of course, they're also involved in chronic fatigue in a big way, but definitely these can and another big one that we'll see that affects brain inflammation is Lyme disease. We see a lot of patients with Lyme disease, and again, Lyme disease also can live in the brain. This is what's called a spirochete. It's not really a bacteria, it's a different organism called spirochete. And also Lyme almost always comes with co-infections like Babesia, Bartonella. It's kind of its buddies there, and these also tend to live at the brain level or in the nervous system and create this chronic inflammation that just goes on and on. So many other infections, though. If you get an infection in your gut, yeah, that can directly affect the brain. Infections anywhere could potentially create brain inflammation. All right. So what's another one here is Let's say chemicals. And we think of chemicals, we think, well, chemicals, I'm not around a lot of chemicals. Actually, everybody is around a lot of chemicals, and especially with the coronavirus type issues going around now, we are seeing a large use of solvents. Everybody's using all these cleaners and all these things. And the thing is these are toxic for us. So they can cause problems too. But also probably the more common ones I'll see are especially herbicides and pesticides, which not only I have many patients who maybe live in agricultural areas. So they can spray this stuff, Roundup and these other chemicals miles away. This stuff can blow in the wind and they can breathe it in. If you're not a good detoxifier, you can't dump this stuff. It gets stuck in your system. And definitely this stuff is not only carcinogenic, but also can inflame your brain. And of course, it doesn't mean we have to live in agricultural areas. We can get these from living near a golf course, having a neighbor that sprays their lawn, or even if you spray your lawn. Or not only that, but foods. Herbicides and pesticides are in foods, not just to hold on to those. I mean, there's a lot of other things. Like I said, the solvents, there's volatile organic compounds or VOCs that come off construction materials, so if you've had work in your house or you do construction type work, absolutely. PCBs, BPA, phthalates, these can come off of plastics that we're around every day. How many people heat up something in plastic every once in a while or drink out of a plastic water bottle? Yeah, you're subject to these things. Another one that we'll see commonly is tobacco toxins. In a cigarette, there's about 40,000 different toxins that we see in the research. And the thing is it doesn't mean you have to be a smoker. You could know a smoker, live with a smoker, be around a smoker, secondhand smoke, even what they call now third-hand smoke. So we are subject to a vast amount of chemicals day in and day out. It's about our body's ability to dump this stuff. If you have a chronic health problem, an autoimmune condition, you're probably not a good detoxifier. You probably aren't able to dump this stuff. It builds up and creates brain inflammation is one possibility. There's other things it can create too. All right, what's another one here? In fact, let's go back to diet. So I said dietary proteins, but diet in itself, this is a big one because, here in the United States, we kind of have the standard American diet. You get up in the morning, you eat your cereal. Lunch, you have a sandwich and chips. Dinner, maybe you've had a crazy day, so you're going to either do pasta or a pizza because it's easy. Again, this can be a weekly or day in and day out thing, and this is not good. These can be triggers for brain inflammation. I mean, the lunch meat on that sandwich filled with nitrates and other chemicals, lots of sugars in these things, these carbs, these so many factors here that can promote brain inflammation. So again, we've got to watch the typical diet also. And here's one that, you don't really hear or think, or most people don't think much about: over training. So what's overtraining? So this would be like someone who exercises a lot, not only just a lot, but too much. Meaning that if you are the person that just likes to run 10 miles in a day, or you maybe do your exercise, but you're like, hey, I need to get in my miles on my bike today, or you exercise every single day of the week, and the thing is this is not good for you. A lot of people think, hey, the more I do this, the healthier it is. Well, there's things that can kind of addict people to exercise. Exercise can be a drug, let's put it that way. It can actually work against you. I've seen people who run marathons, do triathlons. You would think these people would be ultra healthy, and we look at their blood test and it looks horrible. They're a wreck. So again, overtraining can just create as much inflammation in the brain too and cause problems. All right. And then another one here is emotional stress. And this can be a big one and a common one, and something that's not easy to always get rid of. So This can be psychological stress, bad relationships. Maybe there's someone you need to get rid of. Traumas, emotional traumas. People have had things that have occurred in their life that are traumatic, maybe physically, emotionally, that they've never dealt with. And so these things can continue to push problems. And really, this can affect our cortisol levels and our fight or flight system, our neurotransmitter production, that whole gut-brain connection. So if the brain gets inflamed, that in reverse can affect the gut and make it worse. So again, emotional stress plays a big part. And some people, they can do a lot of things and try to get healthy. But if there is that emotional component, it will just persist and they'll have these chronic issues. So that can happen very commonly. And here's another one that isn't talked about very often at all. EMFs. You know, if you start talking about EMFs affecting your health, people start to think you're crazy because you can't see it. You can't see radiation. You know, if you go into your doctor and he takes an x-ray, how does that happen? If you talk on your cell phone, how does it communicate with someone across the United States when there's thousands of other cell phones communicating through that same cell tower and it gets to the exact right person? I mean, again, how does all this occur? So electromagnetic frequencies are very real. This is a very real problem. And again, some people are more susceptible than others. It just varies. That's why, you know, it's like, hey, well, so-and-so is at the computer all day, uses their cell phone all day, their house is right next to a 5G cell tower, they don't have any problems, but this person is complaining about it and, you know, they're just at their cell phone most of the day. So again, you can't, it's a per person basis with any health issue. Everybody's different. Everybody has different internal issues. So some people are more susceptible than others. These can also not only be from cell phones, computers, being near cell or electrical towers, geopathic stress, which can come from, hey, is your house built on a fault line or some type of underground river? You know, all these weird things can come into play that we just don't think about. EMF radiation, but I'd say the most common are computer EMFs, cell phone EMFs. And here's a thing that comes into that is when people are at computers all day and then also they sleep with their cell phone next to their head all night or their tablet next to their head all night. They don't realize that this is affecting them and having an effect. When we sleep, like we talked about, sleep's an issue, but not only sleep, but also sleep in an environment that is healing and safe. Again, when you sleep, you want to sleep, get all these electronics out. Even alarm clocks, those digital alarm clocks that you plug in, high EMF levels out of those. So not good stuff. So we don't want our brain subjected to this radiation, these electromagnetic frequencies all night. Not a good thing. All right. So the thing is, you know, knowing this information here, let's change up. You know, you've got to kind of ask yourself, do I have any of these triggers? Are any of these that we noted affecting you? If you have brain fog, decreased mental speed, you know, slow thinking, maybe you are unable to handle stress and your emotions get triggered easily. Maybe you are thinking, gosh, do I have dementia or Alzheimer's, or maybe you've already been diagnosed with these things. In fact, there's a lot of conditions, even autoimmune issues like MS. You know, these are brain inflammation conditions and issues. So again, you've got to ask yourself, are these, or do I know someone with these? Because it's dangerous, it's bad stuff. And if you have these, then you can go through these triggers and hopefully get them out of your life as much as possible. Or if you've tried to get what you can out of your life and you're still having symptoms, then we need to find out, okay, what is still in your system? What do we need to get out? Because maybe you can't detoxify properly. Maybe you need support. So, all right. Well, I hope this gave everybody some great information on brain inflammation. All right. I want to give a shout out to Shelly and to Miriam. Hi, Miriam. And Sandy. Thank you for watching, all of you. All right. And I hope everybody has a wonderful, great day, and God bless.